Thank you very much, and thank you for your audience here. These are some works still on the anvil, still warm on the anvil, and with some more work, some more hammering to get the result and to get to a more communicative research. So you can see it's research with partners, close to partners. We are embedded with a project with Veolia Water in Bangladesh, the Grameen Veolia Water Ltd, which is a social business, which is a kind of BoP ventures in Bangladesh. So I will start by a remark on the presentation of Thierry and Eric. We know that in the background of BoP literature and BoP seminal ideas, there was a dimension of evolutionary thinking of economics, and all what you have presented and the way the story of BoP has taken has totally lost this evolutionary selection of good business model, good venture, bad venture, good product, good offer, bad offers, and all this selection by the market and by the society and community. All these ideas, because of the doing good ideas of BoP, has been totally put in a laid back in the back. So. This works and based on the observation and the action results with Veolia, Grameen Veolia, shows that on the contrary, the process, the history of the making of the market, the generation of good business model, and the running of the company, the BoP company, is made of selection and interaction with the community, with the consumer, and with all the social structures, social interplays in the community, in the consumer community, that are selecting and that are guiding the learning path of the company, of the ventures. So, of these 5 points, I will be quick on the two first one because many has been said about BoP and BoP ideas and BoP ideas evolution by Thierry and Eric. Then I will have a presentation of what is concretely the Grameen Veolia Water Ltd social business, and then here is the core of my paper, which is an analysis of the social making of the market, of the offers of Grameen Veolia. And then a quick remarks and further research. So this we have seen with Eric and Thierry, but just to have a short the two dimensions, development and sustainable development, which is the sustainability is a large part in the Prahlad, Alamond, and Stuart Hart seminal paper. This sustainability dimension, or sustainable business innovation for sustainability, which is also part which has been put back now in the discussion about BoP, and then the commercial and the business dimension. So I will not be agree with you, Jan, about talking about concept for BoP. I will consider BoP as a pre-notion. It has been framed by practitioners. It has been observed by researchers, management guru like C.K. Prahlad, which is a very practitioners-oriented, which was very practitioners-oriented researchers, scholars. So we can consider BoP like CSR, I think so, as pre-notion, that is something framed by practitioners, used by scholars community, but not as a purity, the theoretical purity to talk about a concept. This pre-notion is discussed both in the scholars community and the practitioners community, NGO, political arena, public aid agency. So we can talk of double hermeneutics coming from Anthony Giddens because of this discussion and the fact that this discussion is about the legitimacy of cooperation in the development context, legitimacy of cooperation and capitalism facing poverty and bad development or unsustainable development. So we can consider maybe BoP or social business, inclusive business, all these terms as boundary objects with the property of making people, different kind of people, allowing them to discuss and to act together, NGO peoples, public aid agency people, community people, and company corporation people. So, as you have mentioned, Eric, a post-structuralist approach for BoP market is needed. That is, we have to consider both the structure of social relation and the agency and the strategy of actor, both in a balanced way, both two, not focus on social structure or on actor agency, actor's strategy. A pragmatic knowledge approach is needed, as Freeman has emphasis for CSR in the context of stakeholder theory, also for business ethics issues. And this approach fits well with action research approach. And I think it's more a question of knowledge quality than a question of truth or false knowledge. Knowledge quality for social action, for action of social actors. So, BoP proposal, I will talk about a proposal. Okay, you have these three parts. I will be quick. The idea is that companies can create markets that will respond to needs and that will create new conditions, externalities, as you said, but externalities is a tricky or oriented concept in this context. I will propose some other approach than externalities that will do good, that will engage the community, the people, the family, the consumer in a path escaping poverty trap, escaping all the problem, material life problem, or even the social life problem in those contexts of poverty. So it's the same kind of proposal as the win-win proposal you can have from Michael Porter, for instance. It's the same kind, the same family as Michael Porter, mutual value creation or a shared value. It's the same kind of proposal. I will skip this one. Just 2 points. This point. One can have a very business-focused, a very corporate-focused view of BoP. That's what you have proposed. But as Gon and Matten has analyzed for CSR, because there's, and Jan, you asked the question about this connection between business and development. One can also have a more above point of view, trying to take together the development process, the evolution, the social changes, and the business behavior, the two together. That will be the upper part of the diagram from Burrell and Morgan that Gon and Matten use. I have this detail because of the CSR reading group next week. for those who have read the Goen-Matten paper. And this separation fallacy is an analysis of Edward Freeman, that Freeman considered that taking in a separate way the wealth creation in a separate way from social choices, ethical issue or sustainability issue, taking it separately, and for instance saying that you have to create wealth, and after that with state mechanism or distribution mechanism or some kind of organic solidarity you can reach a good state of society, is what Freeman called separation fallacy. For Freeman, there's an organic view of development, of business in society, and as a businessman, to avoid separation fallacy, you have to integrate these social issues, but in a business way. That is the point. And my analysis will propose a third way. You have put these two conflicting views: the business view, business acting like a business, acting like a corporation, a companies, or acting like a kind of organization, a mix of NGOs and business, which is a kind of hybrid, a kind of chimère. I don't know the name, chimère in English, maybe chimeria. So there's a third way. I think so, and I will present this, which is taking into account the social process of market and business emerge, the way that business emerge from social interaction. Okay, so and this will partly be a response to some recent critiques made for BoP ideas. Notably this one, the use of literature, using socio-economic and economic sociology literature, we can push and better understand the BoP market. Okay, so BoP is a question of market creation, not market entry or market capture. That is a point now that is shared. But many practitioners do not have understand this and are still reflecting about BoP as market entry or market captures. The need, you have a paper, Eric, where you put the idea that needs are not making markets, that needs are not the good way to start for BoP ventures, because needs do not engage people in a market attitude, in a consumption attitude, and that is something very that we have verified with the Grameen Veolia. Everyone needs good water. Everyone needs safe water, but that's not sufficient to create a market, to create a successful business model. So these are the two visions: business as usual and the mixed enterprise NGO with the design thinking and the participatory approach. And I will propose a third vision of BoP. So this is just a remaining of the BoP protocol Mark I you have created with Stu and the team of the BoP initiative. That was that BoP workshop or something like this. Oh. So the idea was to it is a very classical entrepreneurial process, but the idea was to put the business people inside the community, to make them very close to the habits and the real life of the community, and then engage them in a business relations to create an enterprise. You have also proposed principles and code of conduct, very kind of CSR or NGOs oriented. That was in 2005. And this is the iconic diagram from the BoP protocol Mark II. I will be quicker. And as you said, there's a co-creation and more business, more entrepreneurship oriented. But co-creation is the adding point. This I will escape to be quicker. So the question is how to understand the market creation and how to escape from this conflicting vision, NGO development versus business as usual, business routine, corporate objective, class typical objective. So quickly, what is Grameen Veolia Water? Grameen Veolia Water is an offer, a market offer, a market venture, a company, a joint venture between Grameen and Veolia Water, located in Bangladesh, south of Dhaka. The process and the operation are very simple. You have a water plant pumping water and filtrating water. You have water network. You have tap point and other device of distribution for water, collective water access, for instance, water access at schools. And you have a market price, which is 3 Bangladeshi taka for 10 liters. It's approx 0.25 euro. You know the currency rate? Right. Okay, it's this price 3 taka for 10 liter is an affordable price for people in the community. It corresponds to 3% of the budget family for the consumption that is expected. So it's the same as in a Western consumer budget. 3% is what we have in our budget in a Western country. So it's very, very classical from the technical point of view. These are technical solution Veolia use in Europe, in every part of the world. So what is the question? The question is how do the people will react? How do they will change their consumption habits? Because what do they use typically from 30 years now? From what we call the tube well revolution, they use tube well. 100 years ago, they fetch water in ponds, they fetch water in a river, they use rainwater. But 30 years ago, because of public aid for development, Bangladesh has been covered by tube well, shallow tube well first, I will precise, and deep tube well. So 30 years ago, people shift from natural source, I will say natural river, pond, etc., source of water to tube well due to the public aid. And here is the problem that tube well, because of the groundwater, the aquifer, tube well water gives water with arsenic, high arsenic rates, which is very harmful for health with many illness. So you can see some of the aspect of the way that water fetching, water use is very close to the community life, to the day-to-day life. Water fetching is a role for women. You never see a man use this, which is a coloche, which is a typical jar to fetch water. A man do not work with this. You do not touch this. This is the dwell of a typical tube well. Okay. In the part of the, you have Allen, which is the traditional way to filter, to clean water, the Allen stone. So all these pictures and illustrations to show you that there was no tabula rasa before Veolia Water. There were many ways of fetching water, using water, and all these ways, all these habits, behavior was consistent with hierarchy, social hierarchy, man, woman, poor, not so poor, rich or little rich, consistent with the fact that you are Muslim or you are an Hindu, consistent with the fact that you are close to a tube well, that you are family with a tube well, or family without a tube well, etc., etc. So that's an important point. So these are some illustrations of typical participatory workshop that we have made with the Grameen Veolia team 2 years ago. Here are some typical stakeholder statements, stakeholder mapping, but I will go to this part. So, how to understand this market construction, market, the fact that market will, at a certain time, will hold and be solidified. So, will be a market that works, which is the basic of an innovation. So, the fact that, as I say, one of the critiques of BoP is that BoP literature has not been so much good in using good literature to understand what is at stake in BoP process, in BoP market process. For instance, there's a huge literature about innovation for 30 years. There's very interesting literature, and this literature about innovation has not been so much used, or very few, in a few papers used. Actor network theory is one of these innovation theory in economic sociology or sociology of innovation. Or now we can consider that actor network theory is part of institutional economic theory, and actor network theory provides a good way to understand the way that market is creating, that based on social relationship, extended to other device, material device, natural resources, all material aspects. So, actor network theory try to respond to this issue, to this question, why a specific situation, socio-technical situation, emerge and hold, and change after a while. So, one of the most important aspects of actor network theory as a theory is that it is based and it provides a non-traditional, an alternative vision of the social. What is the social? And that's a very important thing, because as you said, as you mentioned, social business, social capitalism, social. We put this word social. We all understand that there's a problem of the quality of development. There's a problem of the path of development. There are poverty problems. There are other social problems. So there's this reaction of putting social everywhere. Facing this, actor network theory is a good alternative to deconstruct this social black box and to enter on all the social is made of. So for actor network theory, social is not a sphere. Social is not a domain on itself. Social emerge from interplays relationship between actors, enlarging actors from human, non-human, individual groups, material device, resources, all kind of non-human ideas, cultural assets. I will be quick. So we can describe and okay. This is a description of the process of Grameen Veolia Water, the making of the offer, the making of the market, using one of the tools of electronic theory. First stage is a selection of actors enlarged to non-human actors. And you can use in these tools, you can use also sub-network that are part of the global network. So I decided to use the tube well system as a subsystem in the global network. So we have these 7 entities. The tube well system, consumer and their families, the family system, Grameen Veolia, the ventures, the social business venture, local authorities, which are very weak, but which are here in a place. Grameen, the company with Mohamed Yunus, Veolia, the big French multinational, and local entrepreneurs. So every of these actors, entities, have some objectives and are engaged in a process. If we talk about aquifer, bacteria, arsenic, it's natural process. It's a process of reproduction for bacteria. It's a geological process for arsenic. But all these actors are linked in the situation. So the issue is your actors. The issue is that when entering the new offer with the value proposition, the business model or some try of business model 1, business model 2, etc. in the innovation process, the issue is how to reinforce the links that are favorable to some business model that will make the business model works, to destroy or to decrease other links, relationship between actors that are not in line with the business model. And this will not be made as a spontaneous and instantaneous reaction, but in a process, a path-dependent process. You will have some state at different point of time. So, and one important thing that, so here is Grameen Veolia, the actor that creates the innovation. Here is the process of evolution. And at a certain stage, you will have emerging a spokesman that is an actor who will speak for the group, the whole network, including the non-human and the technical device. So back to this chart. So every entities, actors are focused on its objectives, but because of the innovation given by Grameen Veolia Waters, and because of this question of changing habits, changing the use of water, fetching water, every actor will reconfigure their behavior to reconfigure the network, reinforce some links, decrease some other links, but having his own objectives in mind. In mind for a bacteria is not in mind, it's natural process. And that's exactly what we have observed at this moment. The family system for instance, has evolved. For instance, migrant people that are working abroad, that are giving a big amount of money in those families in this poor rural village, are very favorable to Grameen Veolia Water market. For in the opposite side, mother-in-law in the extended family, where there is a big hierarchical system inside the family. The mother-in-law, the elder people are opposed to the new and of Grameen Veolia. All those links, all those social structures are reconfiguring, and now it works. It started to work. It works well to make the Grameen Veolia Water offers working and being adopted by the people, and by all actors, taking into account that every of these actors are still in the search of his objectives. So, Michel Calon proposed 4 steps for this process of innovation. He called the translation process. Translation because the spokesman. So, and we can have the state of the Grameen Veolia process at the moment on these steps, innovation steps. So, with this vision of market creation, market as a social construct, enlarged to a community with non-human and natural resources and material levies, such as the tube well, we have a description of the process of the market. The company is supposed to behave like a company, but the innovation is taking place, but at the social level, at the outside the company, and the company is not supposed acting like an NGO or something like this. The company has act as a company, but the social making is arising at the community level. So, and to conclude, this is my last one. The fact is that Veolia genuine business is private partnership, a public-private partnership, delegation de service public delegation contract. And the fact is that Veolia is running some collective infrastructures, network, water network, and that Veolia is managing resources, collective resources, water resources. That's a fact. The other fact is that this BOP market creation is a kind of destabilization of a state of a community. Creating those new markets, you change many relations, you make enter many change in the community. So the idea was to combine these two views, the change making in the community and the vision of natural resources and collective services of Veolia. So this vision using resilience, adaptative resilience, based on some works in the Elinor Rostrom community, shows that the market will make rise the level of institutional equipment of the community, creating a risk, a destabilization, a shock. But this situation, if the social rearrangement, reconfiguration is doing well, can achieve in a new state of the community, escaping from poverty trap, escaping from the sanitary problem, the arsenic problem. That is a possibility. Other possibility is that the market does not emerge from this process, or that the destabilization, the shock to the social features of the community will make some harmful effects for instance, from relational at a relational level, or for instance that the richer will take all the benefit from the project. So this is a way, this common resource management and resilience process that will be that seems to be very useful and interesting to pursue to better understand the way that BoP markets are creating good effects for development and poverty alleviation, but not considering company business acting like NGOs or some of public agents. So, thank you. You have many on the website of Veolia, Grameen Veolia.
Very good. Thank you very much, Rodolphe. Well, I have some questions. I would like to open it up right now for you.
One question.
Yeah. One question. One question. Oh, because does somebody have a question?
No. I mean, you could. Okay, no. More questions.
More questions. Okay, go ahead.
You can have 3-4 questions then.
Okay. Helen?
Yeah, I mean, I already talked to Professor Manis a little bit before, but maybe to have your input on this also. So, because you actually mentioned the separation of obviously by Freeman, and because this is something that you actually said in your paper also, is that BoP, just as CSR and any social issues actually are really separated from these things in terms of practices. So this is basically what you pointed out, but also, I mean, and this is kind of where I'd like to push a little bit further in terms of conceptually, because you said that, okay, I know that they should be combined, but then in the end you said, well, but Veolia is still acting as a business. So I'd like to, so do we, from a conceptual, is it possible conceptually to actually combine it? So not in terms of value creation, but really in terms of, okay, is it possible to say, well, if we do business as usual, actually, the bottom line is not just financial. I mean, business as usual also includes, social as well as environmental resources that they obtain. Right?
I think it's a question of reflexivity. Doing business as usual does not mean doing business with some mask on your eyes. And in this case, Veolia, step by step, has advanced in the business path, doing some more marketing, doing some more pricing, etc. But also, after a while, using a better understanding of the community and having more relation, more discussion with the consumer and community, creating a new job, which is auxiliary. They have worked with an anthropologist. Because of our proposal, we propose them to work with an anthropologist because we do not understand nothing in the Bangladeshi family system. It was very complex. But after that, they moved to set up a network of auxiliary men and women. It's important to have men and women in this community. And this creates links between the company, the business management, and the community, so that the business can be run as a business with business objective, profit, not profit at the moment, but saddle points, and also exchange and reflective discussion, the reflective connection with the community.
Yeah, but I think my question is more about these internal rules of the game, okay, on which the everyday managers are judged. Okay, so the core role of the manager in the company, for example, so then in this project, okay, not talking about Veolia anywhere else. So in this project, then, okay, are the people at Veolia, are they evaluated based on based on pure financial?
Okay, that's very Yes, that's a key question. I do not have time to present the different steps or action results, but we have a phase of the action research which is value assessment, and we focus not on holistic assessment. We do not have time. It's not the moment the time to do this holistic assessment, but we focus on KPIs, key performance indicators for manager at the local level. And what we discover that KPIs for BoP venture is a very complex issue. A list of 10 KPIs for such a company as Grameen Veolia Water, setting up 10 KPIs, it's simple. It's not simple, not at all. Because every part of the business side is mixed with some social, anthropological, equity, gender issue, Hindu, Muslim, etc. So that's the idea of Freeman. You cannot separate. Homo faber, you know, in the prehistoric or anthropologic business, Homo faber is a part of the social life. You cannot separate this. That's the idea of Freeman, and that's what we live and what the management of Veolia lives, and that's why the KPIs, which was supposed to be something that we can tame in 2 months, we are from 6 months on the KPIs, and the KPIs are a way to discuss this connection between the business and all these community life aspects. So KPIs is a very business-like practices. Every business has KPIs, but you see that making good KPIs in this context open the social box, and you cannot separate it.
Yeah, well, then let me have my question, and then, which is, in a sense, I would like to ask you, you're talking a lot about markets and market creation, but what kind of market is this actually?
Yes.
Because we're having one supplier and who's competing with non-business alternatives.
Yeah.
Well, the way that I understood, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And then, why do you need to talk about markets? What would be missing from your presentation if you would just be speaking about innovation?
Yes, it's more about innovation.
Why market?
Why market? Because there's a price, and people are supposed to make their own choice regarding the price, the convenience of the distribution, and the way the water is distributed. Water is distributed with a water dealer and tap point.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to get at is, in a market, the business that is delivering this is going bankrupt if it cannot hit the bottom line. You said this is a public-private partnership.
No. I said that the good business of Veolia is public-private partnership. Veolia is running business in cities, in a urban area, and mainly in this kind of delegation service public or private-public partnership. So here we are in a rural area. There's no public contractors, no public partners, and there's, as you said, there's no competitors in a market way. The competitors is the tube well, deep tube well, shallow tube well, in a kind of social relation, social dependence from family to other family system. That is not a market system. So there's a market because of the nature of the offer, which is a price taking. You have to choose to accept to pay free taka for 10 liters or not. And many families do not accept to pay. Some say that water has to be free because of the goddess Kala. That is Kali. Yeah. Because water is a gift from the nature. So water is not a market commodity, it's a market goods. So it's a market mechanism. market. So, but I understand and I agree with you. We are not in a kind of institutional market as a sector with competitors, with rules of market, with norms of market. We are at a very simple, very starting point of a market behavior.
But I'm trying to kind of connect the two papers, and you know, we have a quite pessimistic story, which is a classical mainstreaming story for me. I've heard that story about socially responsible investment. I've heard that CSR. It's basically, in the end, the business logic wins. Okay, so in the kind of hybridization attempts, in the sense the kind of business logic wins, and you know, with all the consequences of what you're saying, which is okay. If we follow this, you go back to your early criticism, okay, which is actually, what are we doing here? We're doing business, you know, that's all. And that's what I'm saying, you know, in the sense, what is it beyond just simply doing business? Huh? So then we're kind of, and here in that situation we have something which is a bit more positive in the sense of saying, we can avoid this trap by having this logic of one actor that remains the, you know, like this notion of the corporation as the corporation does that because it's made for doing that. You know, the shark thing in the movie, you know, thing, like sharks are made to kill. Well, the corporation is made to. I don't know if you've seen the movie, but that's a nice way to put it. But then around it, we have a set of institutional actors, basically, that are kind of engaged in trying to reconcile that corporation into a broader goal, into a broader objective, while it's still doing what it needs to do, because that's how it is, but then the rest of the thing is actually forcing it to also contribute in a sense to kind of the social interaction. But then something which you didn't mention, which I think I understood from the last point, seems to be a kind of a higher level, more macro level story, which is the story that in fact it seems that Veolia is in a sense forced to do that because it's part of the deal, as I understand it. It's part of the deal with the Bangladesh government, I guess, for having access to the market. No, it's not part of the deal.
But it's in the culture of Veolia.
Okay.
So when Veolia had to cope with the market, which didn't work, then they remembered that their culture is to work with communities and with local authorities.
No, but what I was meaning that part of the access to the city market is a délégation service public.
Yes, but usually
they do not have in Bangladesh. Yeah. Every city in Bangladesh has a public-owned services for water. Yeah. It's very bad quality, but it's public-owned. There's nothing like private services in Bangladesh. That was the same in India a few years ago, and Veolia creates the institutional condition, the regulatory condition to operate as a private company. But the fact, and you are right, is that but it's at an upper level because of the critics about privatization of water, which is a very common critics in the community of anti-globalization people, and which is shared by, for instance, many political person in France or in other country. And that is a typical CSR issue. Veolia has to prove that the market mechanism and that Veolia as a market, as a private company, as a business company, can create not only wealth in a financial and commercial dimension, but also good social change. Sustainability, sustainable development, social sustainability, ecological sustainability is at this moment a business issue for Veolia.
Okay, so then it's a different story. Then the story is different industries. I mean, we're in different types of logic. We're in water, which is really directly connected to something that is a little less connected to classical market logics, and therefore has to. And we are in kind of consumer goods products, where, in a sense, this is much more difficult to superimpose, in a sense, a broader logic that would have the consequence that you would need to change the incentive systems within including within the corporation. You could think about this, because a lot of the story about the corporation is about incentive systems at the level of middle managers, as you were saying. If you change those incentive systems, because there is a broader logic that is forcing that, then maybe you can move towards something that is closer to the story that we're having here. So I don't know, but that's...
And because what Marie-Laure is saying, that in Veolia they are culturally oriented to public interest, and they have spontaneously the idea to be in a broader framework. But why do you oppose CSR? I knew that you did it because I read your paper, and you are here because you have a negative view about BOP, and even if we don't share that 100%. But why do you oppose core business and CSR? You say, if you're not in business, you go to CSR.
Right.
And you can, and there is another way to say CSR and core business are going to be together. I mean,
but there, and so
another question is that's the first question, and the second question is, I'm sure you heard about social entrepreneurship and social enterprise. What is your? Are you familiar with that? And what is your idea? Because you assert the idea that it's impossible to have both social and economic leadership, and you assume the idea that whether you are in one or in the other. And we have examples in the history, or more recently, we have examples of organizations who manage their skills and manage money and manage things to overwhelm this contradiction, which is a reality. So that's my
absolutely. No, so and I guess actor network theory is an empirical tool. It's not a management tool. So I could take actor network theory and overlay it onto what was happening in India, overlay what's happening in Ghana, and we could use the same thing. So just to be clear, so I don't see this as a different vision. I see this as applying a tool to show what Friedman is arguing, is that yes, you still have impacts with society and the environment. I'm not arguing that the business doesn't intersect with society and the environment. What I'm arguing that is a management theory, that the way things happen on the shop floor is that it's dictated by a set of practices and routines within the management. That's all I'm saying. And I'm saying that if you want to change and you want to have an impact on companies and you want to have an impact on the shop floor, it's not going to happen by talking of things outside of management's experiences and practices and sense of what the reality is. That's what I'm asserting. I'm not saying, because in our PhD thing, you'll see there's a footnote in that paper. I said, this doesn't preclude companies from applying a set of social environmental objectives. SC Johnson has the probably strongest social environmental objectives. On the shop floor, I hate to tell you this, the managers could care less about them. It's a general cultural phenomenon. It doesn't impact. All it does is it's that first set of screen that no manager at SCJ is going to sell drugs. I had one manager there said, if we wanted to make money, we'd sell drugs. But obviously we apply values. I'm not arguing people don't apply values to anything. All I'm saying is that, though, that outside of an initial set of value screens, the way it's operated on the ground is driven by very specific key performance indicators.
Yes,
I'm sure I don't disagree. You can't change, but you're.
But not that I agree.
Yeah, you can.
but both. It's the combination.
Perhaps I totally agree, but this is like the idea of that there's one vision that suddenly just trickles down to a whole set of KPIs. They do. I mean, like DuPont will have and say, okay, you've got to report on your environmental, on your waste. Okay, I don't disagree that's so that's just going to be a screen that they apply. But that is not how you drive actual business development then. It's a screen. It's a negative screen. It's not a positive screen. The company is not going to look and say, how do we create more environmental value? A DuPont manager on the ground will not go ahead and say, let's see, today I've got to figure out how we're going to create more environmental value. That's not it. So it's a negative screen, and I think this is a huge difference. A negative screen, just all it does, it sets out the boundary of what's possible. That's it. After that, your objective is to sell as much product as you can. That's your objective. We'll set screens. And I completely agree that companies can institute, and I think those are very effective, but that is not going to drive BOP work. Because BOP work, if you're going to require companies to, I don't know, to assess their social impact, if you do, and they say it's suddenly a cost on the business, they're going to want to have that, recognize that you're now asking them to measure the impact of on health of something like this, and you want to do a true public health thing.
Health impact.
Yeah.
Is not measurable. It's something very destabilizing. Very. It's people from various. They will to measure the health impact, but you cannot because it's very low effect, very low level effect,
right?
And it's not easy to separate the contribution of water, Grameen Veolia Water, in a health improvement. So
and it would be true, and it would be costly. At the end of the day, it's an enormous cost to do an impact assessment. And the cost has to be borne by somebody. And that's why a manager on the ground is not going to say, we need to do an impact assessment because our value is to have community value. They will say we're creating community value because we're selling our product and our product creates intrinsic value. But to drop $500,000 to do a before after, it's never going to happen. Not the shop floor.
One more question.
All right.
Yes. One more question for you. And then we'll have opportunities to
we have
continue.
maybe to finish, actually.
Okay,
so you guys will go over dinner.
Yes, or at least for a beer, maybe better for a beer. It's more affordable.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.